Russian forces began their full-scale invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022. Since then, Western officials estimate that hundreds of thousands of people have been killed, millions of Ukrainians have fled, and the country has sustained tens of billions of dollars worth of damage. Here is an overview of the war that highlights one key development for each month. February 2022. Russian forces attacked the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, and the country's second-largest city, Kharkiv, in an attempt to overthrow President Volodymyr Zelensky's government. Many experts expected Kyiv to fall swiftly. But after weeks of fighting, Russia pulled back, stymied by ferocious resistance. Evidence of Russian atrocities emerged in the wake of the retreat. March. Attacking from the south, Russian forces took the Kherson region, including the regional capital, aiming to secure Ukraine's coast. Moscow also sought to form a land bridge between the Crimean Peninsula, which it illegally seized from Ukraine in 2014, and Russian-backed breakaway republics that emerged that year in Ukraine's eastern Donetsk and Luhansk regions, together known as Donbas. Far more civilians were killed in Ukraine in March than in any other month of the war, according to United Nations data. April. A Russian missile strike on a train station in the eastern city of Kramatorsk killed at least 50 civilians. The attack came at the start of a Russian offensive, ordered by President Vladimir Putin, to seize all of Donbas. The state of the war. Putin's military setbacks, dwindling resources, and disunity in Russia's ranks are hindering President Vladimir Putin's 15-month war, and Ukraine's counter-offensive hasn't even started in earnest. Aerial assault on Kyiv. Ukraine says it shot down 6 hypersonic Russian missiles during an attack aimed at the Ukrainian capital. The barrage also damaged the US-made Patriot air defense system. Zelensky's European tour. President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine has been promised billions of dollars in new military aid during a whirlwind tour of European allies, reflecting a striking shift in the political landscape. May. The last Ukrainian fighters surrendered to Russian forces in Mariupol, a port city and industrial hub on the Sea of Azov, after weeks of bombardment that killed thousands of civilians. The fighting ended with a siege of the Azovstal steel plant, which had become a symbol of Ukrainian resistance. June. Russian forces withdrew from Snake Island in the Black Sea, as Ukraine reclaimed a sliver of land off Odessa that Russian troops had captured in February. 2 months after sinking the flagship of Russia's Black Sea Fleet, the Moskva, Ukraine further undermined Moscow's aura of naval power. July. The last city under Ukrainian control in Luhansk, Lysychansk, fell to Russia after weeks of bloody fighting. August. Ukraine launched a counter-offensive in the Kherson region. Kyiv's forces employed Western-supplied weapons systems, such as HIMARS, to target Russian military infrastructure and also attacked a Russian airbase in Crimea. September. In a rapid offensive, Ukraine retook much of the northeastern Kharkiv region and seized the initiative in the war. Ukraine would recapture the eastern city of Lyman the next month. October. In a blow to Moscow's war effort, an explosion damaged the Kerch Strait bridge linking Crimea with Russia. 2 days later, Russia launched a barrage of airstrikes against Ukraine, the start of a campaign against the country's energy infrastructure. Russia announced the annexation of 4 Ukrainian regions despite international condemnation and its loss of ground in some of those regions. November. Russian forces withdrew from the city of Kherson to the eastern side of the Dnipro River, a significant victory for Ukraine. December. With little territory changing hands on the battlefield, Ukraine carried out drone attacks on military bases hundreds of miles inside Russia. January 2023. Ukrainian forces struck a building in Donetsk that was housing Russian troops. Moscow acknowledged the deaths of 89 soldiers in the attack. Ukraine said hundreds had been killed or wounded. February. Russian forces, trying a renewed offensive in eastern Ukraine, edged closer to seizing the city of Bakhmut, but sustained heavy losses elsewhere. US and European officials estimated that Russian casualties in the war were approaching 200,000 killed or wounded. Ukraine had 100,000 killed or wounded in action, along with at least 30,000 civilian deaths, according to the estimates.